Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar for this morning. It's going to be about an hour long, and it's called 8 Practical Steps to Create an Engaging Membership Website. So there'll be people joining as we go through, but we'll carry on and start now. So today we've got 3 people that you'll be hearing from. There's me, I run sales and marketing in Smart Impact. There's my colleague Alan Reed, who you'll be hearing from in a very short while, and also my colleague Leisha Foley, who will be talking about some of the practical aspects and some good examples of websites. So, some etiquette. We're recording this, so you'll all be able to get recordings of this. We'll circulate them by email later in the week. Please do ask questions as we go through. Mics are muted, but you can use the chat box, and then what we'll do is we'll answer some of them as we go, and we'll pick up a number of others at the end of the session. If they're, and that's exactly what I've just said, so I won't say that again. So what we're going to run through today. So 4 areas. Firstly, what have we found from our experience and recent surveys on what really matters to organizations and members about membership websites. Secondly, what organizations are doing it well, but more importantly, what non-membership associations are also doing it well because they're part of the competition in this market space. Thirdly, practical help and advice and some good examples of planning, and then we'll move on to the Q&A. So after that, I'll now hand over to my colleague Alan, and he can talk about what we've found in the market recently.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Steve. Good morning, everybody. My name's Alan Reed. I'm talking today because I'm a veteran of probably a couple of hundred membership CRM and digital web projects. These days, it's pretty much unheard of to do one without the other. There's whenever you're doing a website project, there's always a very significant element of what's going on at the back office, and it's increasingly common to do both at the same time because the level of interdependence between the website and the back office is increasingly high. So the old days of a complete separation of a website supplier and a CRM supplier and the projects happening at different times has kind of gone away to a large extent, and there's always this reliance on the other half. So I'd like to talk first of all about a survey that we did where we were talking to association members. Normally we interview association professionals, but this time we were interviewing members of associations, and we talked to 221 individuals. We tried to talk to about 500, but that's people aren't keen on giving their time all of the time. So 221 gives us quite a good authoritative voice across a spread of membership bodies. What we were asking them, this is going back to last year in preparation for this webinar and some other content, is we were asking them, so how often do you visit your membership body website? What do you only visit for transactional reasons? You have through gritted teeth, you have to pay your renewal fee, or do you visit voluntarily, by which we mean out of your own interest, because you're hoping to get some news, or you've got an idle moment. The way we all jump into Reddit or Quora or YouTube or whatever, we all jump into those things for a minute or two when we're taking a break. Do you ever go to your own website or the BBC News site or whatever it is? And we're asking, is there a reason to go over and above transactions? We asked if they're getting any sense of community out of their membership body. Or is it purely a service? Is it a must-have as part of your professional life? And then we asked them, what are the things you value most, if anything, from your member website? One of the more disappointing things that came out of the survey, if you're looking at the membership space and how things could have evolved over the last 10 years, is that a disappointing proportion, well over half, don't ever go to their membership website unless they're forced to in order to do a transaction. Very few are seeing it as something they would do for pleasure or entertainment or community or support. They're going there to carry out transactions. So we then broke down the reasons they do go to the website where they do. And what we found is here's a list of things that they actually value the most where they are going to the member website. So first of all, access to exclusive content and resources. So there has to be a value to being a member. So things that are not available to the general public, research, case studies, professional information. One of the things that came through very loud and clear all of the time is that people value personalization almost more than anything else. So people use different words to describe this. They don't use the word personalization as a member, but what the different descriptions always got across is recognizing me as an individual, and not a kind of everybody gets the same website. If I've been a member for 10 years and I'm involved in all sorts of committees and etc. And I've been a member for 10 minutes and they both get exactly the same web page. They both get exactly the same content. So personalization is one of the things that people value the most, we found over and over in most conversations. Community is becoming increasingly important as an area that people value from the websites. And by the way, we're going to send these slides out to people, and so please don't worry about scribbling everything down. But community is one of the things that people valued the most, the ability to collaborate with people and share interests. And it's one of the areas we're going to talk about a little later, because community is one of the things that's becoming the most available for free in lots of areas outside of the membership body. Then from an authoritative source, people value from the website easy transactions management. That's still there. That was there 20 years ago. It's still there today. So easy and efficient ways of booking on events, updating your membership information and your profile, carrying on through your education. And then education and career development is still one of the top items that people come to the website for, where that's offered. Obviously, from a B2B perspective, that's less urgent. From an individual membership perspective, it's very much one of the main things that people value. And then, of course, industry news, topics and current areas of what's happening in the world, plus seeing their membership body campaign on their behalf. So those are the things that people value the most, and the reasons that they're going to come to the website, which is contrary to some surveys that we've done with membership professionals who are considering a website project, where they really focused on the design, they really focused on the look and feel of the website. Actually, that came very low down the list of what people as individual visitors to the website really value. So when we put that on a survey, and we put numbers of the survey responses, how many of them ticked community, for instance, how many of them ticked in their multiple choice answers campaigns. As I mentioned, one of the main things was personalization, people being treated or dealt with as an individual rather than a bulk. And then the other areas that people really valued were things like education and career development, alongside exclusive content and industry news and discussion. So as part of looking at this, we also looked at if you're a membership professional, what would it take to live up to expectations in all of these areas? So what we did is we categorized the different areas by what would it take to keep them going. So in terms then, there are two kind of main areas of work when it comes to a website. We're going to be talking about this a little later. One is content creation, keeping things on the website that are interesting and relevant, whether you're creating it or it's you're getting your stakeholders to create it themselves, which is increasingly the case. Content creation is one of the biggest areas of investment and cost and challenge when it comes to a website. The second biggest area is, of course, on the technology side, making sure that the data is always there supporting the website. So in terms of the areas of the website that members value, that require the most content creation resource, it's the areas here that are highlighted. So things that are particular to members, even if you have teasers that are available to the general public, the personalization of, if you're in the north of England and you do this in your professional life, you might be interested in this particular event that is relevant to that. So keeping that personalization going is very resource intensive. And then, of course, industry news and campaigns. So these are all things that the members value the most, but are also the things that require a huge amount of resource at the membership body end to keep fresh, keep lively, and keep valuable for the members. And then we looked at the areas that members value that require great data to be available to the website, great integration to other systems. And the reality is that pretty much everything on your website, aside from silly stuff like the about page and your terms and conditions, everything else on the website requires exclusive content. It requires a great data and integration. So the exclusive content requires that your website knows who the person is, knows what they're interested in, and is then able to serve up information that shows that you understand them, and is doing credit to you as a membership organization. So that's just emphasizing where the main areas of focus are. And where the main challenge you have in terms of your resource, in terms of content creation, and then getting the technology platform up and running. So, Alicia, if you're happy to take over, we can go from there.
Great, thank you very much. You should all be able to see my now.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, brilliant. So now we're going to look at some interesting disruptors in this space when it comes to offering free community advice and professional support. And then we're also going to take a look at how some member organizations are fighting back. Okay, so let's look at the good old days before these disruptors came into play, and let's look at how it used to be. So it used to be this scenario where you were the only source for professional information, and everybody used to be reading your newsletters and engaging with your content. And members only really spoke to one another and at annual conferences where they were meeting face to face. Also, you're the only source of a professional community, and you are the only source for CPD and professional qualifications as well. So it means that you had a very unique offering. However, as we're going to discuss, that is changing now with these new disruptors in place. Okay, so now let's look at the new normal. So here's an example of a website. So this is the accounting web one, and we can see from here, this is a perfect example of whereby members now have lots of choice in terms of websites and getting information, forming those communities online. And so Accounting Web specifically has 100,000 registrants and makes 1.8 million page impressions per month, which is a huge amount. So what we want is to drive that engagement towards your websites, rather than letting these disruptors take over from your space. And the Accounting Web website works very well because it's always very fresh, extremely up to date, and it contains current news. It's very conversational. It's really at the forefront of everything that's going on in accounting. And this website does very well in terms of its ad revenue as well, and that's how it funds itself essentially. Okay, another example is Mumsnet. So Mumsnet is a very vibrant community where people, of course, mothers, but not only that, a lot of childcare professionals also sign up to this website, and they form their own communities on here where they can discuss everything in terms of childcare, social care, all that kind of stuff. And it has 8 million unique users per month. and 20,000 forum posts per day. So we can see that this is a huge amount of engagement, and this is engagement that's free to be driven to your website also. Okay. And then, of course, we have LinkedIn, which we all know is absolutely huge. And then something very interesting has begun to happen on LinkedIn that's really disrupted the membership website space. And so on LinkedIn, members essentially have formed their own closed professional communities where they can communicate with one another on these LinkedIn groups. They are free, and the biggest disadvantage for membership organizations is that you as a membership organization may not be part of this group, so you actually are excluded from this, which may be an issue for you. So this is what we're hoping to kind of mitigate with using your website. Okay, and you all might be asking, so what does Mumsnet have to do with membership bodies? Okay, well, when it comes to membership bodies, the ones that you see on the screen at the moment, so these ones are fighting back by investing in their website, making their website more engaging and trying to drive that traffic to their website and having their website as a first stop rather than an afterthought. Okay. And similarly with accounting web, all of these basically are now competing with accounting web. Interestingly, also a lot of these member organizations are now advertising on accounting web because accounting web is gaining so much traction, and we want to move that back onto these member websites so they can be at the forefront, and they can have the reputation for having the most up-to-date, latest information also. Okay, so let's take a look now at how some member organizations can fight back via the evolution of their own websites. So an excellent example is College of Optometrists. So what College of Optometrists have done is that they completely renewed their website along with their CRM about 3 years ago. And so their mission statement was to always be fresh with a focus on current affairs as well as a wealth of functionality to make life easier for members and staff alike. So the goal here was ultimately for their website to be a first stop and for everything optometrists and students. And they've done that very successfully by constantly updating content, by having personalization, and by having member and staff logins also. So this website is always top of mind for members in the optometry sector, rather than ever being an afterthought. And its success is really down to it being so up to date all of the time with the latest information. And here's some examples of some areas of the website, so they can manage all of their professional development in terms of events. They can measure all of their CPD points, access all types of journals. So it's very specialized and very specific, where you would not get on a more general website. And you can see that they can qualify and manage all of their exams here also. Okay. Okay, then we have also another great example is the CBI website. So it's very interesting how CBI actually subverted the traditional membership model, and instead of having all of the usual kind of stuff, what they have on their website is access to podcasts with some very notable speakers. So that's really trying to draw members in, and it's quite a unique offering to have on a website as well, something a little bit different than competitors or the structures in the market may have. And they also have many free items that people can access from the website, and then more specialized products are behind a paywall also. And then of course they have all of the usual things in terms of commercials, such as training and events that you can access via the website. Next, I want to show you a real life example. So a number of years ago, there was a change in Parliament, and one of our member organisations is very heavily involved in lobbying. So when this huge change was made in Parliament, it was very important to be reactionary and to disseminate the correct information to members in essentially real time. The website did very well because the technology was already there. So as soon as this happened, the website was there ready to engage with members, and it was interactive as well. So members could submit feedback onto the website, and that's still happening today, whereby members are still responding to this change. It was a huge change for businesses, so they need to be able to do that also. So it's a really important investment because you don't know when a major event is going to happen, and it's always best to have these tools in place so you can respond immediately. Okay, so now we have another quick survey. So it's how would you describe your supplier relationship? And so we have the same supplier for CRM and website. We have separate websites and CRM suppliers. We have good independent control over improvements to our own website and content. We are too reliant on the supplier for any changes to the website. And you should be able to view that survey at the moment if you can just use your response.
Great. I think we'll give it another few seconds, and then we can publish the response to the survey. Thanks very much, everybody. Okay, great. Thanks. And we can see that the majority of people have separate CRM and website suppliers. Well, just half at the moment. That's changing rapidly. We're seeing that the majority of back office suppliers traditionally have also developed website capability now because they want to be a one-stop shop and reduce the risk on the client projects. A lot of people are too dependent on the current supplier. And feel that they're not able to respond in real time, the way Leisha's example just illustrated there. And a lot of people are feeling that their website is still letting them down, which is disappointing in 2023. Great. Thank you very much, Leisha. And then if we could hand over to Steve, then please.
Thanks for that. So we've heard so far from Alan and Leisha really showing what's current in the market, where some of the new challenges are, where some of the traditional challenges still persist. So what we're going to do now is, for the rest of the session, is look at what you can do about it. So some of the steps, you might do some of these already, you might do all of them, you might do none of them, but we hope that some of this helps. So the first is talking about the four main building blocks for a great website. So the first from our perspective is this is all about a single view of the member, whether they're individuals, whether they're corporates with lots of individuals under them, but it's having all of that data in one place. So lots of organizations are now removing the silos in their back-end systems. So a CRM system has it all in one place, but you need that right across the website. So from us, the website, the portal, the CRM system, the finance system, LMS if you've got it, any other supporting systems that you have should all share single views of the data, because that means you've got it once, you can trust it, you can have shared processes, and you can also drive different content on the website and the portal based upon that data. So it's all about integration. That's the first fundamental block for us. The second is then being able to rapidly adapt your website. So we have come across for many years, we've partnered with lots and lots of website providers. We also do our own website. So we've got two perspectives, providing and integrating to others. Some definitely are easier to change than others. That's a technology thing. Some are easier to change than others, which is a supplier thing, because some suppliers like to black box what they have, so you can't do a lot. Others are much more open, so you can do an awful lot. But the core is making sure that not every change you want to make becomes a big 4-figure or 5-figure cost. And for instance, we've set up our system so that if we add new fields in our CRM system, or if you add new fields in the CRM system we provide, that automatically becomes available for use on the website. There's no need to get 2 suppliers to build the same thing and make them live at the same time, because you should be able to do that from the CRM system if you've got the right combination of suppliers. So examples of nimbleness, well, I've covered number 2, the data field, but the idea here is that you really should have control not only just of content, but being able to create new pages, new landing pages, maybe even create new templates yourself, so you can create different structures on the menu bar, for instance. We talked about data fields. That is really important if you want to start to get much better self-profiling, self-tagging preferences from your member base, because that's great for then targeting content at them later. And also, like we've shown today, but being able to easily surface surveys and calls to action on your website, so you could say, right, well, I've noticed, member X, that you are now eligible for these particular offers or these particular changes in your membership. Click here to do that one, click there to do that one. So it's data-driven messaging with calls to action. If you're selling things, if you're updating things, if you're just trying to change their membership. So nimble websites should allow you to do all of that. Next, content and strategy. So you want people to come back again and again and again. Leisha's given some great examples of where your competition lies now. That competition's all around, and a lot of it's free. So you, in your organization, I suspect, are striving to provide the obvious go-to site, because you've got better content or better up-to-date information or resources that people can download that's drawing more people in. You want to be the one-stop shop if you can. So content is really, really important, but the strategy and resource for that is key. So if you've got a key strategy, which is we're going to provide content of this level, of this nature, of this this type of in-depth level of information, then that can be your strategy, where you're not trying to compete with the most up-to-date, up-to-the-minute stuff, but work out what your strategy is. What can you reasonably do that your competitors aren't doing, so that people will want to keep coming back to your website and join and then get into the member-only access as well. And finally, value proposition. So what is that about? Why are you doing a website? It might seem a strange question, but years ago when we first were in here, we listened to a lot of CEOs saying we need a better website, and the reason we need a better website is because they've got one that's better than ours, or whatever better happened to be. We're seeing a lot of justification at the moment, that same justification being used for apps. CEOs are saying we must have an app, and you say, why do you want an app? Well, because they've got an app. It's like, well, do you need an app? What do you want an app to do? So focus on what the website's for and about, and what your proposition is, and the other stuff flows out of that. So those are the 4 blocks from our point of view. But as many of you might be saying, well, what about branding and design? Well, that's obviously important, but there's an interesting perspective, we think, that we've had on this for a long time. So the first thing to think about is branding and design. Often the build of that comes pretty late in the website creation process. So you'll do a lot of the structural stuff, the way that the member may guide his way around it. You'll work on you'd have worked on the point of it, the reason for the different types of members that come to it, the personas and so on and so on. Branding often comes late in the process, and there's a good reason for that. So if you want an example, and you can all go and do this after the webinar, obviously not now, but if you search for CSS Zen Garden on Google or your favorite browser, then what you'll get to is a website which looks a little bit like this. So yeah, this is a style that's very, very relaxed and so on. But down the right-hand side, you'll see that there are some hyperlinks. And if you click on those, you'll get to these sites. Now, the point of this is these are all exactly the same website. It's exactly the same content with exactly the same website, surfaced with exactly the same technology. All that's changed is the branding through the CSS in this particular case. So this shows you how quickly, or not how quickly, but easily you can have a website and change its surface, change how it looks and feels. And therefore that should mean that the focus is on the technology, how well integrated it is, those 4 building blocks I showed you before. Yet we see so many times and times again, website decisions and suppliers of websites are often decided upon based upon how pretty the design is. And the design is important, but it is not the most important. I would say out of those 4 building blocks, it isn't one. If there were 5 building blocks, it's probably the least important for the tech decision. And then you can get your branding agency to overlay the designs on top of that once you've got that structure that's integrated and so on. So I can't stress, please think of the perspective. Design looks and feels important. It is, but it shouldn't be the most important. Yet people still often make decisions based upon it. So some most common blockers. So yeah, we have a lady smiling, so obviously she hasn't got any blockers anymore, which is good. So the first is disconnected data. Block 1 was all about data, proper integrated data. Now, for many of you, that's a long path, and a lot of our customers, they see it as an evolution, but connect as much data to your website as you can as early as possible and keep moving it along. Other blockers, old CMS and CRM are usually the main culprits, but there may be other systems in your estate that are the same. Cultural issues, and this is an important one we'll look at in a minute. It's about senior management typically buying into this web project in the same ways they should buy into large database projects, large CRM projects, large anything operational projects that you do, or business change projects. Websites still, quite unfortunately, are still seen quite often as something in marketing which is not your window to the world, your way of dealing with membership and so on. Yeah, we all know they're vital, but it has to have that same view from senior management and that same commitment from senior management. And then finally, lack of control. And the survey has sort of brought some of this out, but our previous surveys have also found this out. Too often, small changes come with big figures. And essentially what that means is that when you've got too many different suppliers, each charging quite a lot of money to make the same change in each of the different systems, it essentially means that your system estate is frozen. It's just too expensive to be agile. That's not what you need in this rapidly changing market space. So, final survey. If we can publish this, how would you describe your website? So, is it modern looking, super integrated, doing a great job for us, which is what you can achieve? Is it modern looking, but doesn't quite integrate and doesn't do all the things we want? And then various degrees back to, yeah, it's dated, or we need to change it, or actually we're just stuck with what we've got. So if you'd like to vote on that, I think, was it published up, Alan? I can't see.
Yes, the survey is published. People are replying. We'll give it
Okay.
give it another 10, 15 seconds for people to reply. It's multiple choice, so people are taking a little time to think of their replies. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'll close the poll. Thank you. Steve, I don't know if you can see the results, but what we're seeing is that around a quarter are saying their websites are dated looking with limited functionality. Around about 40% are planning to change the website pretty soon. I guess it's a self-filtering audience for the webinar, you might say. And then quite a lot have great looking websites, but unfortunately it's not integrated properly to the back office, so they are able to offer only very limited functionality. And then so it's essentially a beautiful poster of a website. And then only 10%, another indictment, I'm afraid, of modern membership and the supplier marketplace. Only 10% of saying they've got modern looking and well integrated websites doing a good job for us. So a really low number are in a good position at the moment.
Okay, well, as Alan says, quite often these things are a sort of self-selecting audience. So yeah, a lot of you look like you're looking to change your website. If you are, there might be 2 of our past webinars that interest you, and if you can go to smartimpact.co.uk/events, and you'll see recordings of them. And there's one which is all about integrated websites and portals and the ability to use it as a Marcoms tool by personalized messaging. And the other is, should I replace my CRM and CMS at the same time, or treat them separately, and in which case, what order? So there are 2 different sessions there that might be very relevant to your thinking as well. So moving forwards then, so practical steps. So we talked about this, or I mentioned this before, but it's all about getting your leadership team bought in. So again, we see this with CRM systems as well as when we're building websites. There's a lot of commitment that's needed from a lot of different people, but too often it falls upon a small marketing and content team and maybe a small IT team to deal with it themselves, or to deal with external suppliers that are doing it. So it needs lots of input from right across the organization, and they need the time to do that. So more on that later. But it's a business change project. Internal systems are seen as change projects nowadays. Putting in a new CRM is seen as a major transformation of working practices and future potential. Website should be seen as part of that. It's part of your systems. It should be seen as that, not something that's separate, that's run by a separate department. It should be intrinsic to what you do across membership, marketing, training, education, courses, exams, even finance, because you can use it to do some debt chasing and debt payment. So it should be involved in all of those different people. And as this one says as well, treat it as business change. It's not a tech project. Yeah, it's important to do that. But compelling business case. Why are you changing it? What do you expect out of it? How are you going to measure that you're getting what you expect out of it? Is there a clear financial business case, or is the case non-financial but still valuable? So understand that clearly, because that should be the driver throughout the whole project on everything you do. Every new suggestion, every change, could we drop that bit, should always be going back to that original business case and the advantages that that's expected to bring. So can't stress that enough either. These things quite often aren't run in that sort of way. So next, some help. So as we say, it should be treated as a real, properly resourced internal and potentially external project with the right funding. That's what the business case does. But think how long they take as well. So we still get lots of inquiries of CRM or CMS or both. saying, well, we're going to think about it in March, and then we're going to think about looking at supplies in April, and then we're going to make a decision in May, and then of course it'll be ready before Christmas. And that's usually not the case. These things take longer to decide and choose and longer to implement. So plan on around a year. If you can do it quicker, then fine. If it's just website, then that's going to be quicker than website and CRM. So, but again, still think it's 6 months or longer is generally the way to do this. And also, we talked about it involving lots of different people. Some people will be much more involved in driving this day to day, and you can't squeeze it into anyone's day job. Even if they've got some input to it, you need to give them time in their day. Otherwise, you just won't get the right things in the right way. They'll be rushed, they'll be non-existent, and you won't get that input, which either means your design fails, or your concepts fail, or your content fails later on. So once you've sorted all that out and you've got the right people and the right budget, then let's go on to the next steps. So it's about partners. So if you can build these internally, great, but you still might consider getting some advice externally where it can help. Either for resource and extra bodies and speed, or maybe some specific technical input or design input. But the process doesn't start with web technology. It starts with the self-analysis. So what's it about? Who are you trying to find? Who are your markets? How are you trying to attract them? How are you going to treat them all differently? What's the value proposition you're putting out to get your members and or customers to your website in the first place? That's core, and that isn't just about the website. That's about your organization, of which the website should be seen as just one channel. So you should have a lot of that stuff already, but you can focus the light on what the website can do for you, or you can use the website as a catalyst to build that whole proposition across your marketing strategy. So the reason you might want to look for external help is quite often you don't know what you don't know. So they're just getting some general conversations, and suppliers like us are very happy to have no holds barred, no tie conversations about, well, you could do this, so we can set some ideas and arts of the possible going. That's free. So do it with some people, and if you're interested in then taking it further, you can talk about whether that would cost you any money or not, but just at least try and get a perspective on what's out there and what's possible. So next, again, you can get some advice and guidance in, but budget for that, because we think that that does save a lot of money in the long term. Carrying on with the right partner. So there used to be a separation of back office and front office, as Alan was saying earlier on. That's changing quite a lot now. The reason I think was that back office systems tended to be business or IT driven. Websites tended to be marketing driven, and they were seen as separate, and one was creative and one was technical and so on. If you agree with us about those 4 building blocks I said earlier, they are technical projects with different aims. The integration, the building blocks, the way you run them are similar. So similar organizations should be able to do both, but you need to think about how the design's added in, whether that's by your supplier, by a separate design agency, by some of your own people. But as I showed you, that can be overlaid. A lot of that can be overlaid later on. So it's not a core decision on how you're taking your website, on how you're making your website decision. So by avoiding multiple suppliers, you can get rid of a lot of the arguments and inertia where they're arguing about who's running a particular business process, or maybe they've duplicated it in both places. So if you then want to change your renewals policy, you've got to think, well, is that in the CRM or is it in the website? And when does it call out to the payment cycle, a payments taker? So much simpler if you've got end-to-end processes, much simpler if you can add a field in one place and it's created in, add it in CRM, it's created in the website. and so on, because then you've got much more agility to change your CRM and your CMS and your business processes on the fly. Very much more agile, and the system's therefore likely to last a lot longer because it can keep up to date with how your business is evolving. So that's essentially, it's about data driven, no separation. So you can look to the same supplier for both. But as I said, the supplier should have a track record in CRM and web if they're to do both. And you can get a lot of reference sites, but you need focus on how does that integration work? What does it really give you? Is it real time? Is it as agile as I want? So, underpinning principles. So I'll run through what some of those are, but you right across the organization, and this isn't just at exec level, this is down to all of the different stakeholders, need alignment on your underpinning principles, because they're there to make sure that everyone's focused on leveraging the right opportunities. So internal workshops. So talk about your strategy. Do you want a lot more video? Do you want a lot more research white papers? Different associations have different focuses because they have different member bases. So, for instance, a lot of learned organizations like lots of abstracts, lots of research papers, long detailed information that you might then choose to have synopses or different ways of searching through to them. But a lot of organizations are running into issues of demographics. They're not getting students in, they're not getting younger members in, their demographic is getting 5 years older every 5 years. So a lot more video content, a lot more short, being unfair, maybe short attention span video content gets this sort of stuff through. And it's a real point, I'm making a little bit of a joke of it, but you can change your content to suit your market, and you can change your market depending on the type of content that you've got. So that's important. Next, value proposition, as we talked about. So those two are intrinsically involved. You might choose to have similar content, but produced in different ways, so that you then get older, more detailed members, you get younger, more video age members, consuming the same stuff, and then one may view the other, depending, or one may view the other type of content as well if they want more information, and also consistently trying to work out what services and what benefits you provide that your members want, and how are you measuring who's consuming what. And that's a whole other area of member engagement, which we've done other webinars on. Again, on our website under events, you can see the history of what we call smart engagement, which is all around how you attract, engage, and measure that engagement, and then change and drive more and more engagement. And the website's obviously a key part of that. Next, what's important to you? Decide it and stick to it, because lots of people lose their way in the project. Projects are quite intense. So remember your founding principles and stick to it all of the way through, and keep revisiting it every week. So as the people in charge of driving the new website project, keep going back and looking at how important you wanted potentially fantastic navigation. Are you still keeping on that, or have you dumbed it down a little bit more? Are you very focused on communities? Forums were very, very popular. We're now seeing them tailing off. So I think people underestimated how much effort is involved in maintaining a really vibrant community forum, but you might have a focus that enables you to do that, which is great. And so on. What are the key things that you want to achieve? Next, if it moves, track it and use it. So this is all about the data. Websites can be great ways of you getting loads of profiling information, behavioral information, reference information, without actually having to do any work yourself. But once you've got it, it's important to use it. So if you ask people, are you interested in this, and this, but not this? And then you keep serving them the wrong information because of, you're ignoring what they've said. You've not really, you're not really achieving what you ought to be doing, and you're probably going to upset your members. So it's important to keep using that, but track all interaction with content. So I mentioned smart engagement before. That can start to look at who's on what page, how long they've been. If they've been to that page, why not go to that page? And it starts to see who's interested in what, and that comes into the CRM for analysis, and that can drive your marketing engine for follow-up, or it can drive alerts through to your sales or membership team to make some follow-up actions on people that are behaving in particular ways. So it's a big subject. As I say, we've got a separate webinar around that from, I think, from autumn last year. But this can create a virtuous circle. So people visit the website, they do stuff, you measure that, you then feed them some extra information that drives them to the website, they do some more stuff, consume more benefits, and you've got a very engaged member there then who's starting to get a lot of benefit from their membership, maybe buying some behind the line content as well. But it's a good way of driving up that relationship. So there's the virtuous circle. And then the final point, getting it all right is good. Keeping it all right is very, very important. And it doesn't seem as attractive, but get it right and keep it going right. So websites evolve, need to evolve, but quite often they don't. So a lot of you are looking to replace your website. It might be because they look old and tired. As I've said, you can change that style reasonably straightforwardly. If you're trying to meet strategic goals like better integration and much more agility and flexibility, then yeah, absolutely, new technology is going to help that. But you can change the look and feel quite regularly, so we advise you to review that regularly. But also content and value proposition. Whose job is that? And it's not your tech people if you have them. A lot of firms don't, a lot of organizations don't. But it's not just the marketing people either. You've got to try and get your expertise, depending on what your organization does, from all the different departments, and get those guys to keep driving content on a content plan that's spread across the organization. And that needs to be driven by management sponsorship as well. So internal user group who keeps reviewing this, look, feel, style, content, who's doing what, who's not doing what, who ought to be doing what. But also keep asking your members, how's it working for you? Why are you going to it a lot? Why aren't you going to it so much? What would change your behavior? Because it's continuous improvement. So with that, we've got some questions and we have some of those that people have submitted. So I'll hand over to Alan and we can start to look at some of those.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. That's really interesting. We've had quite a few questions come in. And by the way, people can still drop questions into the chat in the last few minutes. So we've got a question about, should I have the same supplier for the back office and the website? Now, you started to talk about that a little bit, but could you just expand on it? Why has it changed? Why are people going for the same supplier more than they used to?
I think there's a bit of a supply and demand answer. So I think more organizations are asking for it, so more suppliers are supplying it and vice versa. So that's one angle. But the core is, like I was talking about, we've had projects. So we work with lots and lots of external web expert suppliers. What we've found with, certainly what we used to find, it's changed quite a bit, but they were very focused on the design, the UX, the branding, because it was branding agencies that had a bit of tech skill in building websites. What that meant was that they lacked the, if you like, the IT focus of what are business processes, how do you get business processes instilled and then changed and flexible, because the technology on websites often wasn't good for that. And then you could end up with business processes, like I said, in two places. So you might have a conflicting process, so that if you join as a member on a website, that's very different from if you join as a member by ringing up the organization or by correspondence or whatever. So you want one business process across the board. The other thing I'd add to this again is we've had situations where, customers have asked, well, we need to add these 5 fields to the system, please. So we'd add them in CRM, which can be very, very quick. But then there'd be a delay while they were added to the website by the web supplier, and then they need to be synchronized and lined up. So it can take quite a long time, which loses you agility. So those could have been really important fields to add, for instance, because you wanted to get information for an event you're running up. So you wanted people to register, find out this information, please. If you can't do it that quickly, then you need to be more agile. So one supplier can do both sides of that quickly. And in our case, we can do it on one side only, and it gets published automatically. So we only have to do it once.
Thanks, Steve. We're going to have to go for quicker answers. I'm sorry. So just in the last couple of minutes, can I modernize? Someone's asking, can I modernize my website while keeping my very old CRM?
Yeah, there's no reason why, because your website will change. But what you might want to think about is, why are you changing the website? Is it to create more new members, and how are you then going to process those, and can your CRM keep up to speed? So think if your CRM is going to drag down the reasons for buying the website, and if it is, then maybe think about looking at both.
Right, and we've got a variation of that, which is, can we keep our existing CRM system and improve integration with our website and LMS, or does it need a totally new system? And I think the answer is, as long as your back office systems can handle modern integration, then you can get another year or so of life out of them whilst replacing the website. But if they can't handle that integration in a good way, your website's going to be very limited, and you might end up spending good money after bad, and having to spend the same money again, because you'll have to redo everything once you replace the CRM. And then a final question I think we've got time for. Do I really need to do a rebrand or redesign to improve the functionality on the website? So are you able to improve the self-service element of the website while leaving the design pretty much as it is, I guess is the question.
I think knowing the context is going to be helpful, but there's no reason. In most websites you could add new sections, so you could add new functionality, or you can change the branding without changing the functionality. So you should have that flexibility. You don't always need to change everything just because you want different branding, or just because you want to, I don't know, add some better events booking or online renewals or whatever. Those things could be handled by a portal, which could be separate to your website as well. So that probably needs a bit more conversation, but there should be that flexibility there, depending on exactly what your issues are and what you want to do.
Thank you. And then Billy Nichols has asked, if things like forums are becoming less popular, what alternatives are there for creating a community feel on a website? The 20-second answer is what a lot of modern membership organizations are doing, are replacing it with things like a Reddit look and feel, or the Mumsnet element that Leisha mentioned, where you put up a piece of content and then people are able to comment on it, and they have the conversation underneath the content that you're promoting. So we see that on Quora, we see it on Mumsnet, we see it on Reddit, we see it all over the place. So instead of just a dedicated forum, you also have to think about your moderation strategy for that, of course. Steve, I'm afraid that's all the time we've got for the questions. Okay. So would you mind just wrapping up, if that's okay?
Well, wrapping up's really saying thank you. We'll circulate the recordings of this and the slides over the next couple of days. But also, why not look at some other of our upcoming events? You can see the next 5 are there. Look at some of those that we've run as well. Most of these events are generally on either the first or second Tuesday of every month. But go to the website, have a look at some of those others. But I hope that's been useful for you. Thanks for attending. If any of you've got any questions, please email those through. We won't keep ringing you up and trying to sell you something. We'll just happily answer your questions. Be good to see you all again. Hope you've enjoyed it. Bye-bye.